Hello everyone, welcome to Me Life Studies. In this video, I'm going to share a very important and the more frequently used SQL concept in almost all real-world data projects by data professionals, that is cross-database queries. So we can easily access the data when we have the data lies in the same database. But people will struggle to access the data when we have the data in another database, right? So this video will be very helpful to clear about this particular concept, that is cross database queries. Okay, now if you observe this side server details, in this particular server we have these two databases are there, that is data analyst and data engineer. Now I'm going through data analyst database. You can see there are no tables in data analyst. Okay, now we'll see this one. In data engineer database, we have different tables. You can see here, that is customer budget, dim customers, fact spends, and products score. These are the tables we have in data engineer database. Okay. Now you can see by default, we are in master database, right? Now I'm just changing this to data analyst database. Okay. Now there are no tables, right? There are no tables in this particular database, that is data analyst database. Now for example, if I want to retrieve the data from this database, right, these tables. So I'm just considering dim underscore customer. I want to retrieve this data. Okay. Now, if this table lies in this particular database, then we can easily return like a retrieve query select star from dim underscore customers, right? So if I execute this query, it's going to return our data, but this table is not existing in this particular database. This is the table existing in data engineer database, right? How can we access that? So we have to define which database we are returning, that is data engineer, right? And we have to define the schema also. If you observe here, we are having here DBO. For each table, it is returning DBO dot table name, right? That means each and every table or anything will be stored in the format of object, right? If you're not mentioning anything especially as a schema, that's going to consider as DBO. That means database object. So even if you want to store in another schema, then we have to define it. Okay. Now we are returning from this database. What is the schema? That is DBO. Okay. Now you can see if I execute this query, it's going to return all data. This is the data, right? But we are in this particular database, that is data analyst database, and we are communicating with this data, that is database data engineer. Okay. Now if we want to store this data here, I'm just filtering this data with where marital status should be married. Okay, marital status equal to married, and also I'm applying another condition, that is gender equal to male. Okay, I'm just filtering this data. Now you can see this is the data. Previously, there could be many records. You can see here. Now it is 2000. Let's see that also. You can see here how many records previously 4000 records are there, but after filtering to only 2000 records are there, right? Now I want to store this data, I mean this table in this particular database, that is data analyst database. How can you do that? We can easily copy this data into this database, right? Now we are already in data analyst database. Okay, select star into our database, right? I mean data analyst. So you can give any table name, that is I'm going to give as male customers. Okay, and married. Okay, male customers married details from which table? This table only, right? Okay, I'm just giving alias as a. Now you can see here 2000 rows got affected. That means we are taking the data from another database and storing as filtered data into our data analyst database, right? Now if I go and refresh these tables, now we will be having this particular table, right? So this is how we can do it. Now if I do select star from male underscore, you can see by default it's returning, right? Now you can see here, if I do, you can see here we are getting the same data, that is 2000 records, right? So this is how we can access the data, or we can do anything we want from another database, right? So similarly, if you observe here, it is also written DBO by default, right? So if you want to store this table in another schema, what you have to do? First, you have to create the schema. Okay, create schema. You can give any name, like I'm just giving cust, CUST. Okay, now you can see here we are in data analyst database and we are creating another schema, that is cust. What is this error? This schema, okay, there is already an object named cust is there. Okay, so already cust is there, so that's why I'm just changing this to customer. Okay, now it is created, right? Now what I have to do now, I have to insert, I mean I have to copy this data into this particular schema. Okay, as the same name, mail underscore customers underscore married. Okay, how can I do that? Same thing, I'm just copying this, pasting here. You can see here select star into, so we are using by default that's going to consider as DBO, so we have to change it, right? What is that? Customer is the schema, right? So in this particular database, that is data analyst database, this particular customer schema, we are creating this table. Okay, now, if you forgot to mention like this, that's going to insert again 2000 records in the same table, right? So that's why I'm just changing the schema. Okay. Now, if I execute this query, you can see here 2000 records got affected, right? That means if I go and refresh this table, we will be having another with different schema, right? This is another table, this is another table, right? Now you can see if I go select star from customer dot, okay, to avoid your confusion, I'm just changing another one, customer one. Okay, schema has changed, now it is customer one. Okay, I'm just changing, I'm just applying another condition. You can see here. Okay, here what we can do, city can be selected from Hyderabad. Okay, I'm just changing and city equal to Hyderabad. Okay, now if I execute this query, it's going to return some error, right? What is the error? The specified schema, that is customer one, was not created. So we have to create the first schema. Okay, create schema customer one. Now we created, right? And then we are inserting data into this particular table in this particular schema. Now you can see only 312 records got affected, right? Now if I go and refresh this table, you can see we are getting customer one is the schema, right? Now if I try to return customer one dot mail underscore same table, right? You can see we will be returning 312 records. You can see here we are getting it, right? So this is how we can do anything from cross database. We are retrieving the, either if you want to do any filtered data, or even if you want to just create the table from another table, I mean another database table reference, you can also do anything, right? So this is how we can do cross database queries. Okay, I hope you understood. So we need to ensure that the database has to be created, right? And then we have to store any particular table. We need to have any particular schema. If you're not mentioning any schema, means by default it's going to consider as DBO, that is database object, right? So here, how many tables are created? These are the tables we created, right? In data engineer table, you can see data engineer database. What are the tables? These are the tables, right? Now, if I try to insert this data, I mean, if I try to call this table from this database, okay, now we'll do that also. I'm just changing this database to data engineer. Okay, I'm just returning select star from. What I have to do, I have to mention the database. Okay, what is the database? Data analyst, right? Data analyst dot, you have to use schema. What is the schema that you want to, okay, let's see here. I'm just writing directly mail underscore customers underscore married. Okay, now if I try to execute this query, it's going to return some errors. Let's see that. You can see here invalid object name data analyst dot mail, right? So we need to ensure that we have to call it with the help of each particular schema. Okay, so we have to define it dbo dot custom, I mean table name. Okay, now you can see here again invalid data. Okay, there could be a spelling mistake. Data and copying, is there any mistake in spelling? You'll see I'm just copying it. Okay, always preferring just copy, don't do any manual one. Okay, you can see here it's going to return again error, right? So I'm just giving tbo dot this table name. You can see here we are getting it right. So that means we need to ensure which database you want to return and which schema you want to return. You have to mention and then table name. Okay, here also you can change the schema, customer or customer one also there, right? You can see now it is 2000 before. Now if I execute this query again, it's 2000, right? So if I change this to 1, that means customer 1 as a schema. Now you can see you will get 312, right? So this is how we can retrieve or we can access the data. You can communicate with the tables that are lies in other databases. Okay, I hope you understood. Thank you.